Hello, and welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. This one I call Being the Ghost That Everyone Can See. What do I mean by that? Well, a ghost, technically speaking, is an entity that supposedly can be surrounded by people in one place, but no one can see. Yet the ghost can see everything. Well, when we start becoming conscious of the nature of our being, it seems as though we cannot relate to what most people talk about. It seems as though we're different, right? Because the content of the mind is no longer a problem. It doesn't have any effect on us, and we can see them as thoughts, nothing more. Interestingly enough, we can be in the room filled with people, we can see the people, but somehow because we cannot relate with them the same way we used to, and we're trying to be part of the crowd, all of a sudden it's like I am the ghost. You see? I can see everybody. They can see me, technically speaking, because I'm still have the form of a body and everything. But because we cannot relate, then there's no need for them to come over to me and talk. There's nothing to talk about. It's like somehow we see, not avoiding people, but naturally it's like they're no longer drawn to us because maybe we're not sending the energy of, hey, let's talk, let's say nothing. It's just like we're just watching, observing. And that's why people who tend to be more conscious, it's not that they want to be alone, but they tend to be mostly alone. That doesn't mean that they feel lonely. There's two different things here. They don't feel lonely at all because they're not even believing the thoughts about loneliness and everything or anything. They just feel like they are happy with themselves because they know the content of the mind is not a problem, it's not an issue. While most people, to avoid looking at the content of the mind, they try to distract themselves. Always need to be distracted. If they have a cell phone, they need to be on the phone 24/7 until something else interrupts them, and they can draw the attention, you see, from the cell phone to the person, to the person, to the work, to the work, to the television, from the television to see, always trying to keep themselves distracted by not dealing with the content of the mind. And that's why people say that when they begin some sort of a meditation process or so, it's extremely overwhelming because they start getting to see all the stuff that is there hidden, right? And what is hidden, believe it or not, is not all the stuff that we claim is so unbearable or something. No, what is hidden, you see, that now it's haven't been seen yet, is the belief that says that I'm a separate entity. You see, this is the underlying belief. Because if that is not seen, then every single belief and thought about who I am or what I am just comes up to the surface. If I grew up in an environment that is very supportive, maybe the thoughts of who I am or what I am is I'm a good person, I have a good self-esteem, I feel wonderful, I can do blah blah blah. If I grew up in an environment that is hostile or whatever, maybe the idea of who I think I am, the thoughts about myself is I am worthless, I am nobody, I'm no good, and that can lead to other kinds of consequences, you see. But ultimately, we're not here trying to make ourselves a better version of ourselves. We're here to discover that who we are, who I am, is not the thoughts that tells me who I think I am. Who I am is the space like that in which all of this seem to appear and disappear. When that is seen, again from the context or the perspective of a mind that is identified, it considers boring or a death or apathy or life is worthless, nothing, it's not even worth living for. But actually it's interesting, it's the opposite. When that is discovered, truly what is experienced is a peace that passes all understanding, and nothing and no one can touch. And that is bliss, put it this way. Not bliss in a sense that I'm going to be bliss for the rest of my life and I don't have to deal with issues or something. No. issues will be dealt with, things will continue to happen, but there's a space from which all of that is dealt with because it's not affecting the nature of what I am. You see, it may relate to the seeming character, but because I'm resting in the amness that these videos are pointing to, we deal with everything differently. You see, and when you rest in that, you don't feel apathy, you don't feel disconnect, you don't feel boredom or anything. What you feel is freedom. Again, I say what you feel, like if there's a you who feels anything, but again, that's a limitation of language. What is experienced is freedom, and that's how you become this ghost that is free, because although you may be surrounded by many people, you're content with yourself, you're content with your beingness. And it doesn't matter if nobody wants to talk to you, you don't need anyone to talk to you, you're simply happy, you're just being, observing the movie, observing everything how it happens, but not being disturbed by it, while at the same time you can see all the other minds seeming disturbed by whatever may be happening or not. And that's how you become the example of the possibility that there's a way of living in the world that is not of the world, even though it appears to be. Why? Because again, you are in the party, you seem to be a body like everybody else, you see, yet you're looking at everything differently, you see. So you are in the world, or seem to be in the world, but you're not of the world. You are simply being. That's the ghost, again, that everybody can see, but even if they can see it, they don't need to even talk to it. Why? Because they're too busy engaged in others who wants to keep feeding that sense of identity and all the gossiping and whatever they need to keep themselves entertained. You have discovered yourself, and now you simply are wherever you are. Now you may ask, is that means that then I'll be lonely for the rest of my life? Again, not lonely, but alone. I won't have any friends. Not necessarily. Let's look at it this way. When you are the ghost that everyone can see, but because they cannot relate to, seems to be alone, the truth is that in that same party there are other ghosts just like that, you see. And interestingly enough, life arranges so that these two ghosts can meet, and then you begin to talk to someone, but even though you seem to be talking to someone, you're relating on a much deeper level. You're not relating on a surface of talking about the mundane stuff. You're relating to something that is much meaningful to you. Sometimes, an example of a relationship of two ghosts, so to speak, is that may not necessarily have to be talking all the time. They can be enjoying the silence and being with each other, you see. But they're relating differently. And you can have friends and people you can relate the same way. That becomes kind of like the family ghost, so to speak. And the thing is that you don't pretend you're better than everybody else. No. You don't pretend arrogantly, I am much better than them because I am a ghost that I'm aware. No, that's still an ego. That's still not a ghost. That's still part of the crowd that just simply seems to have a belief of grandiosity or something like that. No. A ghost is someone who is in love with love itself, with life, with itself as that which life or words cannot describe. And from that perspective, you will find yourself doing whatever life wants you to do. You could be a ghost while you at the same time are a rock star. Not because you want to be a rock star, it's because music is something you enjoy. It's a way of self-expression. And it just so happens that many people like to hear what you have to say. And yet you still remain true to the nature of your beingness. So this is not about disappearing in a sense of going to a cave and not ever having to face the world. And if you're moved to go to a cave, you'll do it very happily, you see. But I don't think that may be the case. At least I don't see that happening with me. And I don't think that may be the case with you. You may have a family, you may have people you relate with, but what you will notice, or you could notice, however, is that the more there's a sense of being and resting in that, many of the seeming relationships or people you used to relate with, there may be like a, I don't want to say a disconnect, but they don't seem to be able to relate to you because you seem to be more quiet, you seem to be more observing, you don't seem to be engaging in the same kinds of things that they like to engage, and therefore they may start withering away. But it's not because that they are rejecting you, it's because life is taking them away. Life literally is cleaning up the space so that you can actually be more present in the beingness that you are, and then you will find yourself that you may relate to a smaller amount of people, because now it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And before, where you were the one who had so many friends and everything, because again, at a much deeper level, you needed that in order to feel validation, to feel complete or so. Now that you experience the fullness and the completeness of what you are, because you're not identified with the content of the mind, the need of noise and the need of trying to entertain everyone maybe start withering away, and consequently you find out that you may have less friends, but these are quality friends. You see, that's the difference. So it appears that when we're beginning to know the nature of our being, we're becoming a ghost, and at the beginning it could be challenging because we're so used to being in a particular way, and now as we're beginning to transition to the nature of beingness, just resting in the being that I am, well, the residue of the old me may still show up, and sometimes the mind try to convince me that I am wrong, there's something wrong with me. That's when I wrote the third book, You're Not Crazy, Just Healing. You see, it's like if you're in a madhouse where everyone is crazy, thinking in a particular way, and then there's a part of you who can see through all of that, who's healing, and as a consequence of that, you feel like you don't belong here. But then, I might be the wrong one, because if I talk to everyone, everybody's telling me that this is how things are, and I'm feeling that's not the way it is, and somewhere within your gut, that that's how it is. But you see everyone around you and things the same way. So you kind of have to be the ghost that everyone may see in that madhouse, but you stay true to your beingness, and after a while, when you can now see the falseness of everything, but most importantly, because you're experiencing a peace that before you couldn't have, or you seemed that you didn't have, then you're comfortable being the ghost, because you don't want to participate in all this mind stuff that actually is so overwhelming. You like to rest in that space. And once again, at the beginning, it's like, oh my God, look at my friends and the people that I relate to, I'm losing them. No, you're not losing them. You're actually gaining a stability within you, that now you can look at them with compassion and realizing, okay, I'm no better than them, it's just that they're still conditioned and I am deconditioned. That's the only difference. And then again, there's others who may be deconditioned, and you will find each other in that seeming madhouse, right? So you're not alone. That's why there's billions of people. The entertainment industry is multi-billion industry, and the ones who like this kind of information because they're resting in that space, they're very few. You see, very few. But it doesn't matter. We don't need each other because we found ourselves, and yet we can complement each other within this seeming world of so much distraction. You see, I believe Krishnamurti, I think it was him, he used to say that those who are healing are considered rare, and those who have healed are considered crazy. The difference is that those who are healing, they see the game, even though they still some conditioning. So that's the part that they have to stay true to the beingness, to what they really want to experience, which is the peace we're talking about. And again, the residue is still coming out, but now it can be seen. That's the difference. At the beginning is when it's most challenging, because it's like you're jumping into a void of, oh my God, I want to hang on to what I know, but the truth is that what I know, it no longer serves me. It no longer, there's no happiness in there, so what other choice do I have? And that, once you feel more comfortable with the void, you find out that it's not a void, it's a peace, it's a space that, oh my God, this is magic. And then you want to hold on, you want to really protect that. And then as the clouds, you go through the clouds, then you find out there's a whole new world of those who have crossed the clouds, so to speak. And now you don't feel like you're alone. The only thing is you don't need those people. You simply enjoy sharing, extending the love that you are, the beingness with all of that. So with all of them. So I'm going to close with this analogy that I used to share many years ago, which is, imagine that you are in Manhattan, exciting Manhattan, Manhattan, that little island in the New York area that's in the New York State, that little island that seems to have everything, all the entertainment, all the distractions, the pains and the pleasures, Broadway and everything you can possibly imagine, all in that little island, right? And you had all the pleasure you wanted, you tried everything, but something within you feels, I feel unfulfilled, what's going on, and you don't know what to do. Well, in Manhattan, you have this big park, it's called Central Park, where you can actually experience quietude or quietness, silence. You see, even in the myth of a city that is all noise, that Manhattan is, New York is the energy is very dense, it's very high energy, everybody's in a hurry, go, 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 go. So you go to this place called the Central Park and you sit there, and for the first time, where the mind is not identified with all this noise, you get to listen to a part of you that is whispering, always saying, go through the tunnel. See, you couldn't hear that. It was always there telling you, go through the tunnel. That's the only way out of Manhattan. Of course, you have the bridge and you have a road and everything, but just for the sake of this analogy, just go through the tunnel. You don't know why you're asked to go to the tunnel. Everybody's asked to go through the tunnel, but nobody listens. They're too busy engaged in the excitement and in the distraction of New York, because they don't want to look. You see, they don't want to go deeper and see what's underneath in there, all the suffering, all the unfulfillment. They don't want to see that, so they try to fill up with much stuff, keep more stuff to try to cope with it, right? But somehow you feel the move to go to Central Park, and you sit there and you say, I can't do this anymore. I need help. I want peace, right? And you hear this subtle voice that says, go through the tunnel. Now, the thing is that everybody avoids the tunnel because they have stories about the tunnel. If you go through the tunnel, it's a black hole, it's a void. God knows what's going to happen in there. So people fear going through the tunnel, but that's the only way out of Manhattan. But because they fear going through the tunnel, they deal with the pain again by entertaining themselves until the pain can no longer do it, and either they commit suicide in Manhattan or they finally begin to question suicide. So the moment you begin to ask and you see that there's a part of you that says go through the tunnel, there's help. There's other people who have gone through the tunnel and they came back and they said everything is going to be okay. But you see, you still don't know because you haven't got the experience of going through the tunnel. All you know is that what everybody's been telling you. You see? So finally you realize, okay, I have two choices. Either go through the tunnel and deal or face whatever I have to face, which is only nothing but the mind's imagination, or I stay here in a place that I cannot deal with anymore. So if I stay here, what are my choices here? Depression, suicide, drug abuse, anything to cover up and numb myself. At that point you realize, maybe the tunnel is not that bad, because I'm going to die anyway, because so might as well go through the tunnel. So you have help as you go through the tunnel. You're never alone, you see. So as you're going and walking through the tunnel, here's what happens. At the beginning, you can see the light at the beginning of the tunnel because you came in there. But you cannot see the light at the end of it, you see. But as you start walking, the light at the beginning of the tunnel, you can no longer see it anymore, because let's say the tunnel has this shape, okay? Even though you could say straight, but even though it has some sort of a shape, once you go to a certain point of the tunnel, you can no longer see the light at the beginning of the tunnel. You're in darkness, and you can no longer see the light at the end of the tunnel. But you remember how you felt when you were in Manhattan, and now that you're in the middle of the tunnel, you hear the same voice that told you go through the tunnel, who never left you. It says, all I'm asking you, don't identify with any thoughts that are coming your way. Oh my God, this is horrible. What's going to happen to me? I'm going to get lost and nobody will ever find me. See, these are the voices. These are the thoughts that we keep saying. Don't identify with them. But there's a voice, a voiceless voice that is very deep within you, that says, just keep walking. See, because if you listen to the voice of the mind, you can get stopped there for a moment in circles, and you're wondering that what's happening here. But eventually, the voice of love, it says, all I want you to do is just don't believe anything you think, which is what we're saying in these videos all the time. That's all. And then you have access to that voice that says, keep walking. So you keep walking. You don't know where you're going. All you know is that voice is telling you, don't listen to the mind, just keep walking. And if you listen to the voice which brings you peace, because you feel a sense of peace, not the voice that says, come on, look what could happen. That's how you can differentiate it to a certain extent. You rest in that space where you simply keep walking. Just keep walking and keep walking. Then it comes a time that you cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you begin to see more clarity, because some of that light is going deep enough to notice now that from the darkness that you were in, there seems to be clarity. And then as you keep walking and you see that clarity, you start walking faster, because now you can see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. So then you keep walking faster and faster, and that's the equivalent of, now that you know the nature of your beingness, you just want to sit there. And that's what I mean, walking faster. Not that now you become agitated to do things in the world. It's that now you've seen the truth, you tasted it, not the truth in a real sense, but I mean, you have tasted, the sweetness of this peace that we're talking about. And now that becomes your point of reference always. And now you keep walking faster, then you can see the end of the tunnel, and you walk through that tunnel. It's like a runner, when you go, a marathon runner, logic would say that after you're running, I think 26 miles or so, when you start getting tired, logic would say you're going to keep getting tired and tired and tired until finally you're depleted. Interestingly enough, in a marathon runner, they have what is called the runner's high. What does that mean? What that means is that after you have done already 26 miles and you're in the 25th mile, and now you go through the 26 and a half, something psychological clicks in, and now you know that you're getting closer to the finish line, and you have this energy that takes over, and then you begin to pick up the pace. It's funny. You don't just logically would say you should be slowing down no matter what, and yet you see the finish line and you have energy from where you never imagined it was, and you start going faster. You pick up the pace until you cross the finish line. Same thing here. The finish line here is this moment right now, this experience of beingness. This is so the finish line is not something you're going to find in the future. These videos are an invitation so you can see that you are on the finish line. You're sitting on it. You don't see it because of the content of the mind. You have always been the ghost that everyone can see, but you're identified with a sense of identity, and it appears like if you're not a ghost, you're one of them. But the truth is that you're not one of them. They are one of you. They just don't know it. You see? So now you're resting on the finish line, and when you taste the sweetness of the finish line, I'll guarantee you that you can never go back to Manhattan. It's impossible, because you can never go back to the noise and everything. Now, pay attention, pay attention. If you feel within you the calling of helping those who are lost in Manhattan, you know what's going to happen? You will walk through that tunnel back tranquil, because you know that at the end of the tunnel you see what is on the other side. For the sake of this analogy, will be the whole world, I mean the whole United States and the whole Central America, South America. But in Manhattan, you can only see Manhattan, you can only run in there, right? You go back to Manhattan, you're not affected by Manhattan, you're enjoying watching it, seeing the thing, but with different lights, with different eyes. It means that you're no longer identified with the things, you don't need the pleasures of Manhattan, even though you can enjoy them if that were to happen. But it means no difference, because now you know who you are. And then in Manhattan, you're going to notice those who are, somehow they're feeling the calling, and they see the peace. You see the peace that you're resting, and then they notice and they feel drawn to that, and these are becoming, those who are ready for it, and you become the guide who tell them, I'll walk with you, come on, let's go through the tunnel. You see? So technically speaking, you now become this bringer of light, because you have seen the light in you. These videos are just so you remember the nature of your being, so you know who you are. It's not about you becoming a different version of the person or a better person or something. It's so you can rest in the peace I'm referring to here, when you don't identify with the content of the mind. This is the only thing these videos are about, nothing more. I'm not asking you to change anything in your life. I'm not asking you to do anything differently. I'm pointing to the obvious. You're sitting on the finish line and you don't know it. Right now, if you don't identify with any thoughts, let them be. They will be there, that's fine. Just don't identify with them. Don't believe them. But remember, I'm not talking to you as a person, so it's not like you are not identified with the thoughts. I'm talking about the fact that you are right now beingness. It's not a you who's being. It's just, you see, resting in that. This is what these videos are about, what we're pointing to. Well, that is the finish line. That is the peace that passes all understanding. That is the happiness that you've been searching for through pleasure and through seeking all the things that you thought you needed to have or wanted to have so you can be happy. Now you see that you're happy. Doesn't mean that those things cannot be in your life. They can be in your life. You can enjoy them, you can have them and everything. But now you're in Manhattan as a visitor, not as a resident. And well, this is the inspiration that came through this instrument. I hope it served. And as always, may peace permeate the mind so that love can be extended.